What's up, YouTube? In today's video, I am going to be talking about basically all of the finishing carpentry that was involved in making this yacht-inspired hardwood ceiling in my Ford Transit camper van. For those of you that are following along, in my last video, we did all of the carpentry. So all of the rough cutting, the milling, as well as routing the tongue and groove for all of our 14-foot long planks. It was a labor of love and an insane investment in time to make this ceiling a reality. If you guys have any questions about either the van build, any of the materials that we used, by all means, let me know in the comments and I will do my best to try and answer your guys' questions.
I'll be documenting and sharing everything about this DIY van conversion. If you'd like to follow along, by all means, hit that subscribe button.
Round two, fight!
So to kick off this project, what we did was test a variety of stains and finishes. When it comes to staining Doug Fir, a number of forums had mentioned that Doug Fir is especially hard to get to accept a stain and to do it rather uniformly. And so some of the recommendations were to only sand the Doug Fir to 120 grit as opposed to the kind of de facto recommendation of sanding it to 220. So we tried that as well as testing what it would look like if we whitewashed the Doug Fir, did nothing to it, or used a stain. So that's what you kind of see here. The top half of the board was sanded only to 120, the bottom half sanded to 220. We landed on the whitewash, and also, despite what the forum recommendations were, it looked like sanding to 220 was in fact the best option. So we went ahead and sanded everything down to 120 first, and then eventually up to 220. And here I'm using a Festool sander, and Festools, I mean, they're amazing products, but I was getting these sort of anomalous swirl marks. And so I experimented using my DeWalt sander with the same Festool sandpaper, and I wasn't getting those sand marks. So what I ended up doing was basically just using the Festool to do the rough grinding with that initial pass at 120 sandpaper, and then a second pass with the DeWalt at the 220 kind of finishing sandpaper. And it worked out great having the two different sanders anyways. That way I didn't have to constantly change the paper back and forth. And here, because we had already routed the tongue and groove, we then couldn't come back a second time and add like a 45-degree chamfer with a router bit. So I'm just adding sort of like a round over on that rough edge via a sander, and it gives kind of like a nice clean transition, and also helps make sure that we don't have future tear outs or chips when we're installing the wood. So with all of the smaller boards finished, it was on to the beauty board, and the exact same process of first sanding it down to 120 grit sandpaper with the Festool, and then coming back afterwards with the DeWalt sander, again with the 220 grit sandpaper, and then also adding the same round over on the edges. It was a little bit of work, but so worth it.
Tomorrow is going to be somewhat like today. And then over 5 years, well, there's much more that has to be accounted for.
So the next step was to go ahead and seal the back sides of all of the boards. I had started off this project planning on using this polyurethane one coat as the finished ceiling, and I was going to use this for both the front and back. However, once we started applying it to the back sides and saw that the kind of resulting sheen wasn't really giving the aesthetic that I wanted, decided against using this one coat for the front. However, it did save an enormous amount of time, as being a single coat product, you don't have to come back, sand this down, and then apply second or third coats afterwards. So for the back sides, I think I would still do this exactly the same, use a one coat product, but when it comes to the finished face that you're actually going to be looking at, I'm not sure that I'd really recommend this one coat. It just did not really enrich the colors or the grain quite like a standard polyurethane. So after giving that one coat about 24 hours to dry, we turned all the boards over, and in preparation for the whitewash, we're just cleaning everything off, making sure there's no dust. And for the whitewash itself, we used a Minwax gel-based stain. And the recommendation on the Minwax product itself says to only leave the whitewash on for about 3 minutes. And we felt like it wasn't really leaving that big of a visible impact, and so we stretched that out up to 10 minutes. Though if you go past 10 minutes, it does seem to dry. So if you want a more visible effect from the whitewashing, I think you're really going to need to do multiple coats. But for us, the main reason that we went ahead with this whitewash is that it absolutely prevents the boards from ambering or yellowing in response to that final protective coat of polyurethane.
You're not using your hips, sir. You must stroke with the hips. Yes. Yes. Using your different muscle groups.
Now, as far as just the actual whitewash or the impact of the whitewash itself, these center boards, or my beauty board, as I keep referring to it, seemed to have the biggest impact or kind of result of the whitewash, where it really did help to accentuate the contrast between the light and dark colored grains of the board. "24 hours later, and we were able to move on to the first finishing coat, starting off by once again wiping down everything just to make sure that there's no dust that is settled on all of our boards. What we chose to use was a clear satin polyurethane. If you use a high gloss finish, what I've noticed is that it creates a very high reflection or glare, and kind of works contrary to all this effort that we put into helping accentuate the contrast between all the different grain. But this really comes down to personal preference, and so to each their own. Now, just as a quick reminder, you guys, if you're going to be working with any kind of a chemical that has a high VOC that basically creates fumes or is flammable, which these solvents absolutely are, and if especially you're going to be in a indoor confined space, by all means wear some kind of a respirator mask. Be smart. Don't risk your health just to be quick or lazy. Next is lightly hand sanding everything to 220 sand grit, then wiping it all down. And now that we're done sanding in between coats, it's time for the final finish coat on the front face of all of our boards. Now, I opted to stop after a second coat, and arguably, I'm sure there's going to be some woodworkers out there who feel like you really do need to go up to 4 or 5 coats. Again, always sanding in between the coats to get that nice, perfect finish. However, this is not a piece of furniture that you're going to be touching. There's not really going to be that much, I guess, like wear or traffic. It's going to be on the roof. And so I figured 2 coats was plenty to give it a high quality finish that is both protecting the wood from moisture, but also still looks fantastic, and was kind of the happy medium relative to how much work and effort that this took.
Thank you guys so much for sticking around until the end of this part 2 of building my yacht-inspired ceiling. If you guys are still here, still enjoying this video, I made this video for you guys, and I would so appreciate it if you would give this video a like. If you guys like this video, you're gonna love the next video where we get into installing this amazing one-of-a-kind yacht ceiling. It took us 6 days in total, me and my dad working, honestly, 8 to 12-hour days to get this thing installed, but it was so worth it. Anyways, thank you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video.